Welcome to Herf Zone Live. I'm here every Tuesday to bring you the best content weekly. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube, search for Team Shirtless Mike, and follow on Facebook at Shirtless Mike. You can reach out to me on Instagram at Shirtless Mike 2020. See what goes on in my life, and hopefully I can see what goes on in yours. Herf Zone Live is expanding. Get your product in front of hundreds of viewers every single week. Let me advertise your cigar or product to my audience. DM me, let's exchange information and get you a part of the Team Shirtless Mike team. What is going on, everybody out there? And I want to thank you guys for already piling in here. We got lots of people, and we're just doing big things today. I hope everybody's had a great day. Sorry for the lack of shows the last couple weeks. It's just been busy with my birthday and just all kinds of stuff going on personally. So my birthday was an awesome success. I had a bunch of people there. Um, some of my family was there. It was a good time and all that good stuff. So shouts out to everybody. And tonight I'm actually drinking out of one of my birthday glasses. I got to give a shout out to my friend Gator. He got me a decanter set with 4 glasses, and it has you probably can't see this, but it has my last name, Holmes, and I'm drinking a little bit of Uncle Nearest with a very small amount of Coke tonight. So yeah, shouts out to everybody. All right, so I'm not gonna make you wait any longer. It's definitely you've been waiting all day. So waiting patiently from the Hustler Universe Podcast Network Green Room, where you'll find the Cigar Hustlers podcast and the Chet and Palmer Shit Show. Welcome to Herf Zone Live, Uncle Steve Saka. That surprised look on your face, man.
Yeah. I have no Coke in mine, so there you go.
I just need a little bit, it's just, it tastes good. I need a little sweetness.
No, I get it, man. I don't drink soda. Rarely. I mean, like you would think as a fat bastard. I'm sorry. Is there language? Are there like guide rails?
You can say whatever the fuck you want to say.
All right. As a fat bastard, people assume that I would drink a lot of soda, right? Because I mean, that's one of the key things with most obese people is they drink a lot of sugary fluids, and never been my cup of tea, man. Never been a soda guy. I would say in an average year, I might have 12 sodas in a whole year.
Yeah, that sounds about like me.
Really? That little?
I don't drink that much soda. I drink mostly water.
Yeah, I'm a water, iced tea, coffee guy, and it's unsweet iced tea. So that's pretty much that covers out and booze. Yeah, whiskey.
Yeah, I mean you got to have some whiskey. So speaking of whiskey, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, I've been forced to finish this bottle off. It's this Waldron chestnut rye whiskey from Lock One Distillery in Syracuse, New York. It's just like small little distillery with a really terrible label. I love you, my friend. I love your booze, but you really need a designer to help you out because you can't read shit. I got the bottle in my hand. And I can barely read what it is. So, but it's really good. But I broke the cork. So the cork is floating in there. So there's no way for me to close it. So I have no choice but to finish it. So that's the plan.
Salute. Well, what I'm drinking tonight, sorry, Uncle Nearest here. It was a present from my friend Angela Wooten. She came to my birthday bash.
What is that? I don't even know.
It's a whiskey. It's small batch whiskey. Basically, so Uncle Nearest, he was the first known African American master distiller, and so there was like years and years long lawsuit and everything, and he was basically what was it, Jack Daniels back in the day. He was associated with that. Another part of history, but it's the whiskey that first African American master distiller. So they basically the family got the rights back to it, and this is my first time trying. I only drank a little bit out of it so far, and
is it pricey? Do you know?
I don't even know what the price point on it is, but I mean, I've heard it's reasonable, but I can't give any numbers because I don't have them in front of me. But
anything other than the history of it? I mean, Like, is it black owned now? The business is the master distiller black that currently runs
Yes, I
it?
believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
I believe it's like, the descendants of Uncle Nearest. So I'll have to really look further into the history. I just know like the baseline, but just to give you that understanding. And then right now I'm smoking an Umbagog, the Toro Toro. It,
Which I've already mentioned that's splitting. So yes, I
yeah,
know.
I mean it's kind of humid right
It
now.
doesn't
So
matter. I would get a refund. Demand a refund. That's what I would do.
yeah, most definitely. So yeah, it's been a few months since we've seen each other. Last time was at the Heritage Festival.
Yeah,
And
I wasn't doing good there. I got really sick at the Heritage Festival. I
oh
was
wow.
I was really down for the count that weekend. I really was. I shouldn't have been there, but I was just trying to. You notice I sat an awful lot. I sit an awful lot, period, but I sat an awful lot extra that. Yeah, it was I don't know. I should have bailed on that, but you feel
I didn't notice anything different, too
oh,
much.
that's even more disturbing. Thank you. But yeah.
You sit an awful lot already, and you know you're always making sure you wipe the sweat off your head and everything
Uh,
every time, even if you're in the air conditioning. So
yeah.
I mean, but that was a lot of fun. Now I know you had to do an event, but I was with Kevin and Jessica, and some of the people that were with you back in the day in the ALT, the cigar group,
Right.
the OGs, and it was cool to sit there and like some of these people haven't even met each other, and Cigar Craig was
Call them
there, and
OFGs, old fucking guys. Yeah, absolutely.
OFGs.
OFGs. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was cool to just be a part of history. Like me and Kevin and Jessica were like the new school people, and we didn't really interfere too much. We just kind of were sitting there and just observing, and um, like tell those who may not know about that, what that was back
Yeah.
in the day, because
No,
you're one of the original people in the online cigar
yeah,
community.
you have to understand that, before we had social media and all this interconnectivity, you were kind of an island unto yourself, right? And I mean,
Hmm.
you kind of see it with like, okay, so it's kind of like, this is a bad comparison. I'm gonna get myself in trouble. What the fuck? But I mean, think about it. You're a gay kid in high school, right? And you got nobody to relate to, right? And now that you have social media, you now have this much wider universe, which allows you to connect with people that have common interest or common thoughts or whatever. And it was the same thing with cigars. I was the cigar guy in my local area. I was the crazy cigar guy. There was no other guy like me, right? That knew all about cigars, was so into cigars, boom, 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 boom. And what I found was when AOL became available, when I talk about, AOL, you got mail, AOL, and when it was
Dial up.
dial up, right? It was, I can't even make the sound, but there was a little group on there of people that, were into cigars. And it was like literally 12 of us, maybe 18 of us. And we moved over to Usenet news groups, which essentially was kind of like Reddit of the time.
Yeah.
But you had to have you couldn't just go on. It wasn't like there was no web per se. You know what I mean? It wasn't easy to get to. You actually had to know how to type command line codes to get into this text only kind of forum style thing. And it was a really weird thing. Usenet news groups it was everything. It was child pornography and pirated movies and everything. It was all there. And we had a little group called alt.smokers.cigars, and we just talked about cigars. There were no pictures, there was no links to anything, it was just literally text. And it was just kind of this running hierarchy of statements. And that's how I ended up getting so involved in cigars. Is it kind of like opened up the universe that I wasn't the only whack job, that there were other whack jobs around the country and eventually around the world. And this is how we began communicating. Now, I'd say probably by about 1998, 99, it grew. It kept growing as a group, but the core group of us, a lot of us started to fade away. Yeah, you can only do something for so long. And the other thing that's really interesting, and you're going to discover this, and you may have already discovered this, you only have so much room in your life for like really close friends.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get into these cigar groups and you make some really close friends, it's really rare that after that first year or two that somebody comes into your individual circle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You meet a lot more people, you know a lot more people, and it's not like you're not friendly, but it's not the same as that group that you grew up with. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Right. So that group that you originally were newbies together and kind of grew up together, it kind of becomes that group. And eventually what ends up happening is you end up going on your merry way because you got other shit to do because you're an adult and you know some people stay with it longer than others. I've been very remiss. I really don't communicate with many of the ASC guys anymore, but there are some that are, you know, good friends with Neil Ross. He was a judge from, well, he still is a judge in New York. I occasionally have a phone call with Neil. Craig, I probably see Craig more than anyone else. Craig and Jen Vanderslice.
Oh yeah.
I
Cigar
don't have,
Craig's all over the place.
yeah, Craig is everywhere. So, but I mean, you know, there are some people, and I see them on Facebook occasionally. You know, they pop up. It's where I met Mark Williams first. You know, that used to work at Corona.
Yep.
It's you know, I don't want to start naming names. I'm gonna get in trouble for the names I don't name. But
Yeah.
I can think of about 12, 14 other people off the top of my head. And it was just this bulletin board, real crude and really not easy to access. And you really had to go out of your way to find it. And you really kind of had to know how to use your computer in order to use it, which, you know, nobody does at all anymore, right? It would be,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be
Everything is so easy now.
yeah, it wouldn't even be possible. You know, they just don't understand. I mean, when we used to look at porn on the internet, you used to like download a really crappy, grainy picture and walk away for 20 minutes before the picture would load line by line. You know what I mean?
Go eat dinner and then you come back and then it's like halfway done.
You get a really bad porn picture, right? It was crazy. But hey, it's what it was, and that's really kind of how I started communicating with other people was through Usenet News Group. And I think it's still there. And I think there's a way to access it now via the web. You don't have to go through this client
Yeah.
application to get to it.
A long time ago, I don't know if it was you or somebody else that shared it or whatever, but I somehow made my way there, but I couldn't tell you how to get there now. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm too new school. Everything's just, you know, you can't just generally Google it. I mean, I'm sure you could. You just have to type in the right stuff. But
Yeah. Well, the problem is just so many things have been indexed ahead of it. You know what I mean?
hmm
There's so much information now. Where
yeah,
back then there was so little information comparatively. I mean, it felt like a world of information, but in comparison, it was literally a thimble compared to the ocean that we currently have. So, I mean, it was much different. And in some ways, it's kind of good for me because I bet I wrote, I don't even know. If I said I wrote 30,000 things on that posts, I might be light. That's how I mean, it was crazy. And some of it was really detailed. And some of it was really stupid. You know, here, fast forward 3+ decades, a lot of things that I used to think were true turn out to I was just completely wrong. You know, I've learned over the time. So there's a lot of things if you dig into ASC, you'll find things that I wrote that are just flat out wrong. That so it's kind of good it isn't as easily accessible, but
yeah,
it's like everything. You kind of learn with time. I mean, I'm still finding shit that I write wrong just yesterday. So yeah.
yeah. Most definitely, it's easy to do. But so this year you've already been to Nicaragua once, right? Or have you been a
Twice.
couple times? Twice?
Yeah. And I'm going again. Oh, let me see here. March 20th, right after the Great Smoke.
Oh man, so you pretty much like monthly. You know,
I try
try to
monthly.
get
The
there.
only month there's typically 2 months a year I don't. I typically don't July, the trade show month, but sometimes I do. It just depends on how ready for the trip for the PCA trade show we are.
Yeah.
And if I'm going in the very beginning of July, it's because shit isn't going well.
Yeah.
And I didn't finish something that I want to show at the trade show. And so normally on those trips, I'm working like a mule or, to get samples back, or I'm there to beat on the box maker because they screen the boxes acrylic on it instead of English, Oh, and then the other time of year that I typically don't go is I typically don't go December because the factory shut down. Depends on where the dates fall, but typically somewhere between the 10th and the 15th of every year. So I don't tend to go then because there's just no point in it if I don't go. And the last thing they're buttoning up the end of the year and the holidays, and the
Yeah.
last thing they want to see is me on like December 4th. Like they don't want to see me on December 4th. I don't know if they ever want to see me, but they definitely don't want to see me on December 4th. And they definitely don't want to see me on January 4th. So typically my first trip back is at least 7 to 10 days after the factories reopen. Because like they're just it's like anything, everybody's been gone for 3+ weeks. They got to get back in the groove. They got to get everybody going. The last thing they need is me to come in there and be a little nitpicky about this and that when they're just trying to get their production back up and get everybody back on the same page. So I tend to not go the very beginning of January unless I have to. If I'm doing something with tobacco, I can go and spend a week dealing with that and then deal with the factories. But normally most of my first trip to Nika tends to be around January 15-ish in most years is about where it is. But yeah, I go probably I do go more frequently than most brand owners.
Yeah, most definitely. Especially, I mean, obviously your popularity exceeds the size of your company, which just getting to know you, the last couple years, like I realized that, because and then now that I'm in the industry, you're just a small family
Yeah,
brand, but the popularity exceeds the size
it
of it.
does.
So
The
how do you
perception
balance that out?
you don't. You just kind of everybody thinks you're just constantly blowing them off, which some of it I am. But another part is look, we're genuinely a small family company. There's literally there's 9 people in the United States. I mean we're scrappy. That's all we are, right?
Yeah.
We got a long way to go, and we don't really have the infrastructure that a lot of other companies have. And at the same time, we also, I think, this is biased, obviously, but I think we provide a higher degree of service and production compared to any other company our size, and compared to a lot of companies much larger than us. So we're really hustling. We're really turning and burning. I mean, again, there's no company my size that's going to Nika as frequently as I am. It's not just me going to Nika. I also have Anna. She spent this year already in Nika. She's my assistant. She used to work at a factory at Noxa. She also happens to be my daughter-in-law. We are what? We're in March. I think she has already spent 45 to 50 days this year in Nicaragua taking care of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's really super. That's super not normal for a small company. It really it's really different. But I think you see it in the product.
Oh yeah.
So I think it's worthwhile. I think that look, obviously maybe I'm deluding myself, but I like to think that we're making really super top tier cigars. Not that they're all perfect; they never will be, but I think the overall quality of our product from all the lines throughout it's really quite good, and that doesn't just happen. I don't. The only thing that I have over anyone else is just more experience and willing to work harder. That's it.
Yeah.
But there's no like great advantage that's afforded somebody, So, and if I want to compete with Padron and Fuente and Davidoff and my friends at Swisher, then I've got to make things that I think are worthy of being considered that. I'm not, and I don't mean this to degrade the other people that are in my business weight class, but I've said it many times. I just don't care about what other companies our size, a little smaller, a little bigger, are actually doing. I never look at them as actually my direct competitors. I want to eat off the big guys' plates. They're the ones with all the food, right?
Yep.
They're the ones that have all the sales. They're the ones with the big marketing teams and all the advantages. And they have huge advantages, in marketing department and budgets and sales forces, in tobacco availability, everything. Everything is slanted in their favor. So the only way to overcome that is to just really, really grind and really, really hustle. And you can, look, you can market your way a little bit, but marketing only gets people to try shit. It
Yeah.
doesn't make them ultimately like it. And even
Yeah.
if you market your way that you get a fanboy base and they like it, they're the worst base, because ultimately there's always going to be some other girl that's prettier than you that will be shiny and will come along and will replace you. And we see this in that, let's just call it boutique for lack of a better word. But we see these companies through time that, okay, company A is super hot, and then company B becomes super hot, and company C becomes super hot. What you need to see is you need to see that company that goes from, okay, they're this hot little boutique craft, whatever company, and do they cross more into the mainstream? Do they get consumers that start smoking it, that they're probably not going to watch Shirtless Mike? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not going to follow Saka on Facebook or ever read any of the bullshit I write. They're just guys that want to go in and grab some cigars to smoke on their back deck or while they're playing golf or whatever. And therein lies the real challenge: is how do you go from being that hot little boutique company to actually competing with the big boys? And that's a heavy lift. And it's honestly, it's where everybody stumbles. It's the part that is, because if you actually think about it, in the last 25 years or so, maybe 4 or 5 companies have broken through that wall. Rocky
Mhm.
Patel broke through that wall. Drew Estate broke through that wall. It's there's not a lot of them. You could argue that Alec Bradley broke through that wall. You know what I mean? It's not. There aren't a lot of companies that break through that wall. So is La Polina going to break through that wall? Is Christoph going to break through that wall? Is Foundation going to break through the wall? Is Dunbarten going to break through the wall? I mean, Roma. So it's not an easy task.
Yeah. Now, do you feel like that, that you're gonna break through that wall? I think we've had similar conversations like this at the
Let me
when I
say
was.
this: I don't know whether I will, but I know I have more potential to do so than most other people, because again, it's experience. I have a better understanding of the market. I have a better understanding of the consumer. I have better understanding of how sales and distribution and all of these things work. And the reason why I have a better understanding is because I've had 30 years of fucking it up, and you just learn from your mistakes. And look, and I also had the advantage of, look, I was exec consultant at JR Cigar, largest retailer in the world at the time.
Mhm.
I was president of Drew Estate, the fastest growing, ultimately to become the largest Nicaraguan cigar manufacturer, and one of the biggest companies in the United States, in the US, in the world market, actually. Um, so those are experiences that you don't normally get. So when you start your little cigar company, right, whatever it be, Red Robin Cigars, and they're great cigars, and you got a great little Robin, and it looks great, and the branding's good, and the story's good, and you're a good guy. You don't have any of those experiences. You're learning as you go along. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So you got to learn all the business lessons. You got to learn all of the marketing lessons. You got to learn all the sales lessons. You got to learn all of those things as you go. And that makes it much, much harder. Now, I'm not saying that I know everything, because nobody knows everything, but I know a lot more than most, which gives me a bit of a competitive advantage. But it wasn't like I was handed that on a silver platter. I've spent the last umpteen decades doing this shit. So I should have a better perspective on it. I will tell you, though, it doesn't always work to your favor either, because I've been very conservative, actually. I think if I was aggressive, I probably could have the company pumping another $5-6 million in sales easy in this year if I was willing to be a bit more risky and a bit more push. Like we currently don't do any programming at all. Zero programming. We do zero programming with brick and mortar. We do zero programming with the big guys. And really the programming with the big box guys is where the dollars are at. We haven't even started any of that. So while we sell to all the big box retailers, all of our sales currently through them are almost all organic. You don't see us being featured anywhere. You know what I mean? We're
Yeah.
not on any catalog pages. We're rarely on a web special because we don't do, because all of that stuff, whether consumers realize it or not, it's all pay to play. It's all quid pro quo. It's all
Yeah.
negotiated. You're either giving it to them in free cigars or very heavy discounts, or look, pages in a catalog, those pages cost money. You pay to be on that page, okay, is what I end up as a smaller company, even as a mid-sized company. So there's a lot of things like that. And then the other thing too is I still haven't figured out, you would think this would be the part I know, but I've been really struggling with the whole sales force part of it. I mean, we currently have 5 brokers of record, right?
Hmm.
But, and no offense to John Fee in Hawaii, he doesn't count. There's 5 stores, right? John Fee is our broker because he's our favorite Hawaiian, right? There's no business to be done. Ed Ryan works his ass off in the Pacific Northwest, but there's all of
Yep.
what 30 stores in his whole territory,
Yep.
right? It's like,
I know Ed Ryan too because my dad lives in the Pacific Northwest. So back in 2016, I happened to meet Ed, and we every once in a while we keep in touch, and he's a good dude, man.
yeah, he's
Definitely
a
worth
great
his ass
guy.
off.
He's hardworking, and I mean, the only two. And look, we were trying someone new in Texas, but they've never been a broker before, so they're learning. And the only place where we have what I would consider like professional, experienced brokers are in New England. We have Brian Sonia, and
Hmm.
then we have Pete Hernandez in Florida. And look,
Shouts
and
out to shouts out to Sweaty Pete.
and look, Pete is a love hate thing, right?
Yep.
Some people absolutely love Pete. Other people like they don't want him in a store. I mean, and that's true with any like long term broker with experience. It's part of the gig. But for the most of the country, we have zero representation. We have zero representation on the West Coast. We have zero representation in Arizona, which is a huge market. We have zero representation all the way from New York State all the way to the border of Florida. So the entire eastern seacoast. We have no representation at all in the Midwest. So there's like huge areas of the country where we do not have a physical sales footprint. And then part of the reason why is I just I can't find anyone that I like.
Yeah.
Everyone just kind of, I don't know.
I mean,
Yeah,
if you're entrusting somebody, they have to be that extension of you and do things the way that you want it done. Because
yes and
it's
no,
rough trying to extend that.
but you can't ask a broker to do that because a broker is an independent business. You know what I mean? They're a
Yeah.
commission based employee. They're not an employee. That's the point. So you can't really you can ask, but in the end they're going to do whatever the hell they want to do, right? So the
Yeah.
other option you have is you hire an in-house person, but an in-house person, to support a territory, you're probably out 130 to 160 a year by the time you do salary, taxes, health care, and then automobile expenses and hotels and all of that, travel expenses. It's a lot. And we've managed, oddly enough, to just grow on the primarily, other than a few places that we do have representation, on just direct sales. Retailers actually contacting us when they need cigars more than us walking in and saying, no, that isn't particularly good. If we were more aggressive on the road, we would have a ton more business, because there's a lot of retailers in the country that they don't order. They're lazy.
Yeah.
They need that physical salesman to come in, sit down with them, go through their shelves and say, oh, well, you sold this and you sold that. No, this is selling really well. I know this over here, this isn't doing so well. Let me take that back, Bob. Let me put this box on your shelf because this will do better for you, yada, yada, yada. And really help manage their, the retail store. And we don't really have that. And that's a severe disadvantage. But at the same time, I keep saying to myself, look, we've we've managed to keep growing and we managed to keep selling through everything we're making. And if I were able to, and look, we've been increasing pretty much 40% year to date every single year, with the exception of those first couple years, because those first couple years were just stupid. Year one,
Yeah.
you do 300,000, and then the next year you do 1.2 million, and then the next year it doubles. So those first couple years were just really, the numbers were stupid. But look, 40% is stupid year to date on a company that's going into its 8th year. So, I mean, we seem to be growing well enough without it. But eventually, I'm going to have to do something. I just haven't quite figured out what to do. I actually have figured out what to do. The problem is I don't know who to. It's problem finding the right bodies to do it.
Yeah.
It's tough because, like you said, if they actually work for the company, then they are an extension of you, and they have to represent you. And not exactly an easy guy to represent. What's the story? Fat
Yeah.
white dude lives in New England. His Spanish sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not exactly the sexiest of stories for a salesman to tell.
Yeah. And I mean, I think to clarify what I meant, like, they don't yeah, they're representative of even they're not employees, they're independent contractors type thing. But it's all a matter of them putting in the work the same way that you put in the work, and
Yeah, but
because
nobody's gonna do that, Mike. Come on.
but still, like the relationship. I mean, like me with my boss, like I don't own the shop. I'm not a manager, but I do have some responsibilities. I run the social media. Like I take initiative to, like, okay, this is,
Right.
I need to put this out or whatever, and then I have to get that approved, this
Look,
approved.
and
It's all about taking initiative.
every good company has multiple great people that work on the team. You know what I mean? No company of short of you being a physical artist, brush to canvas. And even in that case, you get to a certain point where you need to have managers and assistants and people to coordinate things. But every company, I mean, the face, the founder, my head, I get the credit. But the reality is, there's a lot of people that have to contribute in a big way to the cause in order for it to be successful and in order for it to grow. It's never a one man band. The dilemma that you have is that's an impossible marketing message, because even though we as consumers say we love the whole concept of team, we don't.
Yeah.
We always like to. Nobody thinks about all the dancers who were behind Rihanna at her Super Bowl show. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that show would suck, and I don't want to get into a Rihanna conversation whether it sucked or didn't suck.
Mhm.
But we can all pretty much universally agree if it had just been Rihanna out there, it would not have been as good as all the other people, right? There's tons of choreographers, there's tons of stage hands, there's tons of grips, there's tons of people that do a ton of things in order to make her the focal point. And that's true with me too. It's not like I'm personally hand rolling every cigar.
Exactly.
I do more than a lot of brand owners do, when it comes to cigars and tobacco, but I'm not there day in, day out. I mean, we're gonna roll probably 1.8 million cigars this year. I mean, 1.8 million cigars. That's crazy when you say it that way. But guess what? When I left your estate, we were doing more than 2 million a month, and I'm sure they're doing way more than that now.
Yeah.
So, so it's one of those things where it does require a lot of people in order to make it ultimately successful.
Most definitely. I have to take a very quick break to shout out my sponsor here, and then we'll get in because you posed something earlier today, so we're gonna get into that about
Okay.
the Barber Pulse. So
Oh yeah.
once I get done giving my sponsor a shout out, then we'll get into that. So give me 1 second here. All right. Herf Zone Live is sponsored by Nomos Cigars, rated 91 in Cigars and Spirits magazine. Nomos is a full-bodied 6x56 cigar that features a rich, full flavor accomplished with our high-quality construction and exclusive aging process. Once the fine cigar is born, it immediately begins our exclusive Nomos Aging Process nap. While each cigar naps, it continues to develop its unique aroma and flavor that sets itself apart from any other cigar the world over. It is a delicious medium smoke resulting from the finely aged Cameroon wrapper and blend of an 8-year-old seco Dominican filler and 5-year-old Nicaraguan criollo filler. The Indonesian Sumatran binder finishes the cigar ingredients with the finest quality tobacco available. This exclusive blend provides a beautiful smoke right down to the last nub. Check out nomoscigars.com for info on where to find retailers that carry Nomos cigars. Orders also available on their website. Also follow them on Instagram at Nomos Cigars. All right, so earlier today, you made the post about barber poles, and let
I
me
don't know
see
what I
here.
don't even know why that got in my stuff get pops in my head, and
Yeah,
I'm like a child. I can't
uh,
contain it. I end up posting about shit that I'd have no reason to post about.
yeah, but and you said, "Oh, you'll give the answer tonight." So, barber pole cigars are for blank. We'll share my
Rubes.
own answer tonight. So, what was
Rubes.
the purpose of that?
Rubes. That's for rubes. They're nonsense. I don't even get it. It doesn't look. First off, making a barber pole cigar is very easy. It's not like some short of the Fuente work of art name. And maybe when they originally did it, it was because nobody was doing it. They were probably one of the original people to kind of do that barber's pole. And this is back what in the late 80s, maybe it was early 90s. I can't remember. Um, and look, some of them, when you look at some of the technical detail that you see on some of the ones from Black Label, they're impressive. You look at some of the ones from Roma, they're impressive. But ultimately, they're nothing more than aesthetic. And for the most part, oftentimes many of the barber poles that are in the marketplace are rather subpar cigars. They really are. They're not particularly good. And oftentimes they do not burn correctly. When it's that little fine line cosmetic detail, it has no impact at all. I don't get the whole. I don't. I don't. I don't. I don't think it adds anything to the flavor experience. And I'm not saying there aren't some out there that aren't decent cigars. There are, but I think I'm pretty safe in saying that 95% of them, well, I'm pretty safe in saying 99% of them are marketing. Even the good ones are marketing, right? They're eye catching.
Yeah.
And look, and I understand how you end up down that road. You start to run out of what to do. I mean, look, we're taking weeds and we're rolling them in tubes. I mean, everything is brown and round. I mean, how do you differentiate yourself in the marketplace? How do you make it pop off the retail shelf so consumers can see it? I get it, but I think for the most part, most of them are crap. I really do. And I think most of them are gimmicks and most of them are cash grabs. And look, you're never going to get a retailer that's going to tell you any differently because their job is to sell cigars. And you're never get the manufacturer that makes it to say any differently because it's their job to sell cigars. But I think about it historically. I've never walked away from a barber pole and go, oh my God, that was incredible. That made me cream. I can't wait to buy a box of those. I just can't. And I've smoked, I don't know how many of these multi mixed wrapper cigars I've smoked, but not a lot, but probably at least 1,000, right? Which
Hmm.
1,000, I guess, is a lot for most people.
Yeah.
And I've never walked away going, whoa. It never impressed me. Now, am I impressed by some of like when I see the football from my friends at LFD? Yeah, that's kind of impressive. You know what I mean? But it's cosmetically impressive. I don't think it adds to the cigar in any way. And I think in a lot of cases, and maybe not with that one, but in a lot of cases, I think it actually detracts from the cigar. It seems muddled, and then the whole thing. I mean, you oftentimes you end up using candela because it gives you a really good contrast
Yeah.
color wise, which gives you more visual pop. Well, short of Kevin Shahan, nobody likes fucking candela. It's stupid.
I only like Candela if it's, if the binder filler is something that's like stronger, like the Formorion that Roma Craft makes.
Right,
That
but then does it
the
count?
the wasabi, by Espinosa. That's like some of my favorite, Candela. It's Candela wrapper, but
I don't think I've ever smoked the wasabi.
yeah, it's not bad. I'm not a huge Candela guy. A long time ago, I was at Corona, and there was, I don't know if it was like a house blend, some sort of Candela that I tried, and I was like, this tastes like grass and hay. Like but there's some people that like that flavor, those
Right.
flavor notes within a cigar. So that's for those guys.
Yeah, look, there's somebody who likes the flavor of everything, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
most definitely. A
I
lot of people
mean,
like earth. I hate earth. I love like spice and pepper. I love that in a cigar.
and I do a lot of earth, so I'm surprised you like a lot of my cigars because earth is a pretty big component, pretty much in
Yeah,
a lot
but
of my broadleaf.
I get other things too. Sometimes I get like some cocoa notes out of
Yeah,
it. Sometimes I'll get
but
some
it's always
spice.
just, it's very simple for me. It's kind of a earthy coffee chocolate. Those are like three very, very common notes for
Yeah.
me in almost all of my blends. I tend to go that way. And it tends to be just varying degrees of that. A bit of woodsiness, a bit of citrus here, a bit of pepper there, a little bit of spice. Occasionally I'll get into some of the baking spices. But I mean the three core notes that you find in most of my blends are earth, coffee, chocolate. Those are the three most prominent things.
And
That
see, that's the reason why I like your cigars, because the coffee and the chocolate notes that I get, like as long as the earth is not the main thing, and
you
and
know
I'm
what
getting other
they
things with
cross
it.
into barnyard funk. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
when it gets into barnyard funk, then it just becomes really off-putting. But again, it's personal. Look, Tiamo was the number one selling cigar in America for a good stretch there for like probably, I don't know if it was a decade, but it was for at least 7, 8 years. And I mean, that was all about just basically barnyard funk. It was manure in a stick form. That's what it was. It's what it tasted like. That's what it smelled like. And there were a lot of consumers that absolutely loved it. So, I mean, look, even when I was president of Drew State, I never could get why people bought so many acid. I can't wrap my brain around it. To me, it's just like smoking potpourri. I don't get it. It's got this incense thing. It's got this potpourri thing going on. The ones that were most popular, the Cuba Cuba and the Blondie, I don't know if they are still the most popular, but those, in my opinion, were two of the worst of the acid. They were super, uber, uber sweet. You know what I mean? But I'm not the purveyor of good taste. I'm just the purveyor of my own taste.
Yeah.
So ultimately, there are a lot of consumers out there that really like the flavor of an acid Cuba Cuba. And the numbers in the market bear it out because you can add up everything I sell, and I don't sell as many in a year as they sell in a month of Cuba Cuba. You know what I mean? Alone.
Oh yeah.
Skew. I mean, so it's just it's the way it is. So there's always, what's that phrase? There's always an ass for every seat, or seat
Oh
for
yeah.
every ass, a seat for every ass. So yeah, look, there's people that look, something that a lot of consumers really love that doesn't hit my flavor profile. Um, I'm not a big like Aganorsa guy. I like the tobacco. I like it as an ingredient. In fact, I think the first time I've actually ever used it as their Corojo, I'm talking about, is in this upcoming Krakatoa. I think it's the first time in a brand that I have produced since being Dunbarten that I'm actually using an Aganorsa tobacco. But when it comes to the Aganorsa Puros, I think they're good. They just don't suit my palate. You know what I mean? They
Yeah.
don't work for me. So for me, there's a lot of brands out there that I think they're perfectly great cigars, but they're just not the type of flavor profile that I like to smoke. Where other people, they can't. That's, you'll see that their favorite brands are a lot of those cigars that are made by Aganorsa that are primarily all Aganorsa fillers. And are they wrong? No, it's their mouth, their palate, their dollar. So
Yeah, most definitely. Now tell us about the Krakatoa. Um, heard a little bit about it. I mean, I don't consider myself a fanboy, so I don't cream over
yeah,
waiting for new stuff. When I smoke it, I give it a chance. If I like it, I'll go back and smoke more. So, I
well,
was
look,
kind of interested on that name and the concept behind it.
yeah, well, the name came before the cigar, which was part of the problem. I tried really hard to, and one of the things that I really struggle with is I don't tend to like cigars that blow your head off. I don't like cigars that are so peppery and so I don't like cigars that bite me when I smoke them. I like robust cigars. I like full flavored cigars. I like full bodied cigars. I like strong cigars, but I don't like cigars that I find physically are uncomfortable to smoke. I don't like cigars that burn my sinuses. I don't like cigars that give me that odd feeling in the back of my throat. So you'll find that I don't tend to make any real pepper bombs. Even in my strongest brands, none of them are really super pepper bomby. There's a few Vitolas here and there, like in Tricky Traca, the 448. It's got quite a bit of punch to it. The Todos Los Dias, particularly in that half Churchill size, had an awful lot of punch to it. But that's more of a byproduct of the smaller Vitola than it is in particular the Liga. So with Krakatoa, I really wanted to try to make that pepper bomb. And I made a bunch of them and just in the end, I was like, yeah, it's a pepper bomb, but I was never happy with it. It was just kind of like, what's the point of, I'm going to make it. It's going to sell. People are going to rave about it because there's a certain group of people that love that style of cigar. And I'm going to get rave reviews on it. But in the end, it wasn't really being true to myself and what I like in a cigar. And that's part of what, it's one of the things I think makes us a little unique is I only try to make cigars that I actually would buy and smoke. I don't
Yeah.
I don't like to make cigars for the purpose of, oh, there's a consumer out there that wants this style cigar, so therefore I'm going to make it. Now, as we grow as a company, I'm probably gonna have to loosen the reins on that a bit, right? Because if you want to grow, you have to reach more and more consumers. But right now, particularly with Muestra de Saka, I don't have to do that at all because Muestra de Saka is a geek brand. That's what it is, right? And so I spent like 3 years trying to get Krakatoa right. So much so that I skipped Muestra a whole year. I delayed it. And then the next year was supposed to be Krakatoa again, but I still wasn't happy. So I ended up doing Bewitched, which I was happy with. So finally now this year I'm going to put Krakatoa out. It's really, really strong. But like so many of my cigars, it's still really smooth. It's more of an explosion. It's very flavorful. Let's call it an explosion of flavor. Yeah, I just coined that now. There you go. There's the marketing at work. Explosion of flavor. It's a 6x48, which is one of my favorite sizes. I really like the 48 ring gauge, and I think it's a really good cigar. And the other thing too I like about it, and this is the other thing that's really important to me, I like for all the Muestras to be I like for all the individual brands to be, well, that's not true. I do and I don't. So look, there's a common thread in all the Mi Queridas, right? If you like the Mi Querida blue, you're probably going to like Umbagog. And if you
Yeah.
like Umbagog, you're probably going to like Mi Querida black. And it just gets into a question of which variation of Mi Querida do you like more? Do you like blue, red, or black? You want a little spicier, you like the red. You want a little softer, you like the blue. But it is the same basic thing. You know what I mean? From a general style genre of cigar. But Sober Mesa is on an island, and Mi Querida's on an island, and Sin Compromiso's on an island, and Stillwell's on fucking some island lost in the Indian Ocean. You know what I mean? But they're very distinct individual things. And with Muestras, I try to make every Muestra a distinct individual experience to smoke. So as we grow the Muestra line, I think it's going to become more and more challenging every year to come up with something that I think is a unique smoking experience, and I also think is worthy of putting in the box. I can see Muestra releases maybe going down to a new one every 2 years rather than a new one every year. But that's a hard thing to say because when you release a new Muestra, that's like literally just hundreds of thousands of dollars in just easy sales. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just from the initial sale alone. So you're taking a lot of money off the table. But in the end, I need each of the Muestras to be unique, or they don't stay true to the brand of what Muestra is about. Because look, it'd be really easy to take whatever Naka Tamale and just make a 6x52 Naka Tamale, or make a 6x52 Torpedo and Naka Tamale, and call it whatever, bing bam boom, and here you go, here's Muestra for 2024. But uh, that's really kind of cheating what Muestra is supposed to be. And
Yeah.
and the other thing too is, I mean, the guy or the gal, I mean, they're paying a lot of money for that experience, so they deserve the front end work to justify the cost. You know what I mean?
Oh
It
yeah.
isn't just me taking something that I've already done, rehashing it, different size, maybe making it a barber pole. You know what I mean? It seems like I'm just taking advantage of the people who are my most loyal supporters. Now, the risk with doing that though is, as the company grows, these products get more diversified, and you then start getting into the outer fringes. Like, look, I have one exclusive that I'm still on the fence on. I don't know whether I love frog juice or hate frog juice. It depends on when I smoke it. Sometimes I smoke a frog juice and I say, "Wow, Saka, you're a fucking genius." Other times I smoke frog juice and I go, "What the fuck were you thinking? Why is this even a cigar?" And it's not that it's awful. It's just, you know what I mean. And
Hmm.
that's part of the problem, that as you do all of these different things, Barber Amarillo, Donderma, red meat lovers, yada yada yada, it becomes much more challenging to constantly be reinventing the wheel when all wheels are round. And that's an area that I'm kind of bumping into now. Like, I have a crazy release year ahead of me. It wasn't planned that way, but it's just the way these projects have stacked up. I mean, I've owed Dojo a release for 3 years now. I have quite a few projects. I mean, I need to do Famous 80th. We're going to release it as a whole brand. They're
Hmm.
going to keep it on the shelf all the time as their 80th anniversary cigar. You know, and look, you think that would be easy, but Famous 80th was made in two sizes. It was made in a Toro and it was made in a Robusto. Well, in order to make it into a constant brand, there needs to be at least two more sizes. So it isn't just, oh, here's the blend and let's make these two other sizes. No, I now need to tweak each of those two new sizes to make sure that A, they're a little different, and B, they work in the vitola that the new size is. You can't just slap it together. Well, you can, and most people do, but when you do that, then ultimately, very rarely do those things succeed. So even when you're making just an additional SKU of a vitola change within a line, you can't just mail it in,
Yeah.
because yeah, you mail it in and you're going to get those initial sales, but it's not going to have any longevity, which is what you want.
Most definitely. Now, the Saka Khan cigar, I've smoked that once. Like, we don't carry that cigar, but I went to Executive in downtown Melbourne, and I'll smoke something different when I go visit them. And the Saka Khan is, I don't know, I didn't like it as much as I like the Tricky Traka and the Mi Carita Blue Label, but
Yeah.
uh,
You think you didn't like it because of the size, though? Because one of the things with the large format too, like in the
that's
Saka,
probably what it was the size.
well, I mean, one of the things that happens with the Saka Khan is just naturally, because of its girth of being 54 and then its length of being 7 1/4. it starts off as a much milder experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's way smooth in the beginning, and then what ends up happening too is the Saka Khan is a 2 hour minimum commitment. In some cases, I think for a lot of regular consumers, probably closer to 2.5 hours. So it's a long commitment. I think that the one that we're going to release this year, the Papa Saka, which is 5 5/8 by 48. I think that that one's going to find a lot of favor with people. It's kind of like because the black blend is really very kind of like a cross between the blue and the red. So I think that one will do really well. I don't know if it'll do well commercially, sales wise. It will out of the gate. I know that, but I mean, the problem is you're in a slightly higher price point, so it's hard to tell. But there's no doubt that the Papa Saka smokes differently than the Saka Khan, and there's no way. There's just too big a size differential. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. I mean,
Yeah.
a Tricky Traka number 648 smokes much different than a Tricky Traka 764. You know what I mean? There's no way, even though the Liga is consistent between them, there's just too much differential in the size. And when you end up with those large size differentials, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, most definitely. Um, Before we get any further here, so we actually at our shop we got one of the ashtrays, and so we have a deal going on. So anybody out there, the shop closes at 10 o'clock tonight. I already told my manager to be on the lookout, but for anybody calling in. But so even if you live out of town or whatever, if you buy 40 Dunbarten Tobacco and Trust cigars, then we're throwing in the ashtray. That's how we're promoting it and everything.
The stone
Um,
ashtray?
yeah, the stone ashtray.
That's a good deal.
Yeah, so so whether you do, because we have the Mi Querida Blues Reds, we got um Umbagog, we got the Moisture de Saka, some of the Moisture de Sakas, the original ones. Um, so we do have some back stock of boxes. So if anybody out, I'm gonna give you the phone number out right now. So if anybody out there that's watching wants to call and order, based on that, Angelo, my manager, he could put together a sampler. You could buy a couple boxes, he'll let you know what we have and everything. But the number is 321-453-1422.
There you go.
And of,
You see,
and of course, it'll be over, over 100 $150. We do free shipping. We don't sell online, so it's all over the phone. So yeah, if you want that ashtray, if you buy 40 premium cigars from Dunbarten Tobacco and Trust, so I said I was like, there's gonna be a lot of fanboys on here tonight, so I can see, because a lot of local people, they don't understand what we have, and no matter how much I tell them, so we're opening that up to, so if you could call, before 10 o'clock, talk to Angelo, tell him Shirtless Mike sent you. We only have one ashtray, so buy 40 Dunbarten Tobacco and Trust cigars, and we're going to ship that ashtray out to you.
see what
And
you're missing is I see Ronnie is in the chat. So Ronnie's going to buy the 40 cigars retail. He will resell the 40 cigars, making no profit on them whatsoever. And then he'll take the stone ashtray and he'll convert it into like $12,000 worth of raffle sales. You wait and see. That's what's going to happen right there. Because so if anybody's actually interested in the ashtray, you better call now to get it before Ronnie gets it. Because I already know how his wheels are spinning. He's already thinking, oh, well, hell, I'll just buy 40 cigars. They won't cost me anything in the end. I'll get the ashtray, and then I'm going to market the shit out of the ashtray.
yeah, and then if I ask him, I'd be like, no, refund that guy. We'll find another buyer. So yeah, once again, the number is 321-453-1422. That's Smoke Ring 72. Talk to Angelo. He's the guy in charge tonight.
Say that number again slower, because us old people can't write that shit down that fast.
321-453
321
453
453
1422.
1422. There you go.
All right, for all the old folks out there, I know sometimes I might talk a little fast, so so just a few more topics, because I like interviewing you, by the way, because you're just so easy to interview. I just get you talking, and it just makes the time go, and it's actually interesting. So,
Let me ask
uh,
you a question. Why am I Uncle Steve? Where did
oh
that
yeah,
come from?
yeah. So I'm gonna post the number in the chat real quick. So anybody that that's older than me that kind of has that, just they don't care what comes out of their mouth. I'd be like, oh, Uncle so and so. And so from the times that I've met you, from interviews, but also interacting with you in person at different events and all that, I'm just like, you know what, that's Uncle Steve. And very few people, only a handful of people got that nickname. So yeah,
I'm
that's
honored.
why I call you Uncle Steve.
You know what's weird about that is, and I know most people wouldn't assume this, and I probably said it before, but I always wonder what people think when they meet me because I'm just so not the typical in our business. I mean, I'm really rough around the edges. I'm not really good with the flash. I'm not. I don't wax poetic about Nicaragua.
Yeah,
I'm much more a. I mean, I'm good at answering like questions about tobacco and cigar manufacturing and yada yada yada. And I'm good with an opinion, right? Because opinions are free, but
yeah.
we're all good with opinions. But I always have to wonder how disappointing it is to meet me in person. I really do.
But I mean, just from somebody who's met you a bunch of times now, you're just like the everyday cigar guy. Like I've been with you at major events. You're very popular, but you find the nerdiest of cigar nerds, and you just plop your fat ass down and just fucking talk shop. Talk cigars. People are gonna come up and interrupt and all that, but you give them the time of the day, and you just keep talking cigars.
Yeah,
And that's how I strive to
the
be.
truth is, I'm you, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I've managed to have done well over the years. Is I always came to it as, I mean, I'm still ultimately a cigar consumer. Now, granted,
Mhm.
I'm jaded as fuck at this point, right? I mean, the curtain's been pulled way, way back for me. But at the same time, I still at my core am just a regular cigar smoker. And I always think in those kind of terms. And I represent a very narrow kind of group of cigar smoker, right? I'm not the golf cigar smoker. I'm certainly not the tuxedo black tie guy. I want nothing to do with little food on plates and hot cuisine. I'm much happier with a good cheesesteak. It's just kind of, and I think that, and I think too, look, I grew up really blue collar. My wife grew up really blue collar. And there's a lot of that blue collar still in me. You know what I mean? It's just, I mean, I kind of a refined redneck at this point, I guess is the best way to phrase it. Um, uh, but I mean, it's just something for me that, I don't know. It's kind of weird because the thing that holds me back is also the thing that makes me successful. It's a very peculiar thing because the reality is I should be running STG. I should be running Davidoff. I would make those people so much fucking money. They would squeal like girls on prom night. Really. They have no
Yeah,
fucking clue how much bank I could actually make them with their resources. But I don't fit the mold. I
yeah,
don't look good in a suit. I don't speak the way I'm supposed to speak. I certainly don't have the college education that's necessary. I'm a guy that enlisted in the Navy 17 years old. That's who I am. I grew up as deep East Texas. That's what I grew up in. So I don't fit what they're looking for today in these big companies, as executive management, president, CEO. But the truth is, I would totally rock their world. Okay. But they would fucking hate me every moment of the day. They just
yeah,
literally, they just couldn't stand it. And I understand that. Because I mean,
yeah,
even at Drew Estate, I made them nervous. And to make Drew Estate nervous, that tells you how crazy shit is, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I was gonna ask, just because several brands have gotten bought out by Scandinavian Tobacco and all that. Like down the line, would that be something that you would consider if the situation was right, or do you
Look,
feel like you
I'm
you
old
wouldn't go
enough.
that direction?
I'm old enough to know never to say never, because that's a foolish thing to say out loud. Because
Yeah,
you never know what the future holds. But at the same time, it is really hard to see. I don't see how I would function in the environment. I really don't. And this is not taking anything away from the executives who are in charge of these companies. Um, they're just an entirely different. They're just an entirely different person. You know what I mean? They're not. These. It's gotten to be very blue blood. It's gotten to be very much the realm of MBAs. It's gotten to be very much the realm of professional C-suite executives. I mean, these are not guys that are going to be sticking their hands in the dirt and pulling up roots and sorting through tobacco, and they're not that kind of person. And that isn't, at the same time though, they have a lot of skills that I don't have. Right? There's a big difference between running a 300, 400 million, $500 million a year organization compared to running one that's doing 75 million a year. When you're a business and you're 75, 100 million a year, you're really running that business very much like you would run a small mom and pop bodega. The basic small business principles are the same. I'm not a high finance guy. I don't. I I cringe every time I have to talk to the bankers. I cringe every time I have to talk to these fucking attorneys. I really cringe when anybody starts using any sort of marketing phraseology. I don't know. It just lights me up like a Roman candle when somebody says something stupid to me like synergy or some nonsense like that. And the other thing too that's very different too is when you get up into that echelon. So while I'm making products that are targeted to specific consumers,
Hmm.
I'm targeting them on the basis of flavor and strength profile, right? I'm like, okay, I have Brulee for the guys that like to smoke mild, creamy, kind of sweeter cigars, and I have Mickey Rita for the guys that want to smoke a heavier, more robust, earthier, peppery if it's Tricky Traca style cigar. They carve consumers into lifestyle boxes. Okay, this is meant for the guys that earn between this a year and that a year. This is for the people that are golf club, golf country club people, and this is cigar for the every working man, and this is a cigar. So they carve people into these demographic boxes, and that's the way their approach is. And honestly, I'm not saying that what they're doing is wrong, because it's what's necessary to do those kind of numbers. Okay,
Yeah,
that's the way you have to start looking at the marketplace. But they start to view consumers more like their wallets rather than that they're cigar smokers per se.
yeah,
And because they themselves, they smoke cigars, but they're not cigar guys. There's a difference. You know what I mean?
yeah,
People that tend to smoke Dunbarton today, they tend to be much more into cigars. Okay, what man, woman, whatever. They tend to be cigar first is kind of their focus. And look, there's a lot of people that smoke cigars just simply as a flex. I
yeah,
mean, they want a brand that's flexible. It's flex worthy, I think is a better way to say that, right? Look, Dunbarton is only flex worthy with other cigar geeks, people that are in the know, right?
hmm,
You smoke a Sin Compromiso around a bunch of people that smoke only whatever, Opus or Padron. And they're like, what is that? It might as well be a $3 bundle to them, right? It doesn't have the cachet. Now, if I do my job right, maybe God willing, 20, 30 years in the future, maybe it will. I don't know. I doubt I'll live long enough to ever see that. But I mean, it is a much different consumer that they are going after, and they target that consumer in a much different way than the way we do it. We're still much more about product definition and they're much more about customer definition.
Interesting. I mean, you never know. I mean, Room 101 got bought out, and and then we sold a lot of his 13th anniversary cigar,
Yeah, but
and
Room 101 gets bought out in a different way. I mean, Room 101, if you think about it, Room 101, and no offense to Matt, but it wasn't exactly a booming brand. It's a brand that's had high points and low points. He's been at the grind for a good, 12 hard years. It was really kind of falling off the map. He got a bit of a revival courtesy of the whole Death Bucket Chicken thing, all that relationship kind of gave him a little bit of extra pop. He's always had individual shops that he's done really well in. The thing that makes Matt Booth so intriguing is his personality. Matt is just genuinely a really good, likable, fun person, right? So
exactly.
I think Matt has always been better than his cigars, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm sure it comes across that way, but I always thought of Matt as being the star, whereas I think ultimately that's something that when you're STG, that's something that you don't really have, right? You don't really have a portfolio of stars anymore. You don't have someone out there to be the messenger. I mean, they brought Sean Williams in like 5 years ago, maybe, to kind of be the face for Cohiba. Sean was a very similar situation. Sean never had the success that Matt had. I'm trying to remember what Sean's brand was, but he had a brand that he was Primo Del Rey, maybe. I can't remember the name of the brand, but he had a brand that he worked really hard for like a decade plus, and just was never really going anywhere for him. And so for him, that transition to be the face of Cohiba, probably a really good thing, for both parties, for both him and for the company. So it's I think Matt's a different circumstance. I'll be very interested to see. I mean, what are they going to do with Alec Bradley? I know that they did a contract to bring the two sons in, Alec and Bradley. So it looks to me like they're trying to get a stable of future front people, to have that one-on-one customer interaction, because consumers do like having that point of contact. It's part of this whole social media thing. Look, when did you ever talk to the president of any company that made anything that you bought, right?
Exactly.
Or the inventor or the creator or the founder or the whatever.
Yep.
And I mean, and even that was true, like in the liquor business. You never knew who the master distiller was of Lafroig. The uber geek people did, right? But now, because the world becoming so much smaller through the advent of digital media, you now have the opportunity to interact with these individuals. Some are really good and some really suck. Okay. Sometimes when you meet someone that's, the face of one of your favorite products, you kind of walk away going, fuck, I don't want to buy that anymore because that guy was a total dick. You know what I mean? So it cuts both ways. So I think, again, I don't know. And I would have a really hard time. I would have a hard time doing something that my name was on that I wasn't really super involved in.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would make a good. I love the dog and pony, but I want to be the person that's basically making the dog and kissing the pony. So I don't know that I could just be the face of. I don't think it would be a good role for me.
Yeah, most definitely. Now, before we get out of here, there's a bunch of people been asking questions, and I feel bad I haven't got to them yet, so I'm just gonna get to a couple of them,
Sure.
and then so I'll start with this one here. So, ask Steve, will the box press Micarita will it ever be included in the regular Micarita line?
Probably not. And I'll tell you part of the reason why is, look, there's a deviation of the Micarita. I mean, Red Meat Lovers has a lot of similar traits to Micarita. And we're going to be launching Red Meat Lovers as a nationwide brand. So I think that I'm going to keep the box press Vitolas in the red meat lovers. So I think it's really unlikely that there will ever be a commercially released box press Mi Querida. Might there be a one-off, something special along the way here or there over the years? That probably will happen, but I don't really see me making box press Mi Queridas as a big thing. I mean, one of the problems with prensados is about 70% of the population doesn't like to smoke a prensado. I've never met anyone that didn't like to smoke a round cigar, right? I mean, even the guys that like prensados still smoke round cigars for the most part. Where on the other end, there are a lot of people that just don't like box press cigars, period. So when you make something that's prensado, there is a certain limiting factor as to how much of the market you can actually release. So, or you can reach, I should say. So I don't see a future for box press Mi Querida in the near term.
All right. Next question here. Ask Steve, will there ever be a green Mi Querida? And the rest of the comment, I'll let you.
Yeah. So I made bands a long time. There's an alternative blend to Mi Querida that's a green blend, but I don't have any room in the portfolio for it. I mean, I got blue, I got red, I got black. I'm kind of getting to the point it's like a goddamn box of criollos. So, but we're gonna do an event only cigar this year that's gonna use the green Mi Querida Liga. So we're gonna have that. It's called Patapero. So the Patapero will it'll start going out to retailers sometime, probably late this summer, and it'll replace the Popetta as the event only, the promo cigar. So you will see a green banded Mi Querida in 2023, but it's just going to be in that one size for the events.
All right. One last question, because there was quite a few. So just from the same thing from Chris Duque. What's behind the Brulee Wagashi project? Is it because of the abundance or lack of Connecticut wrapper tobacco?
It has nothing to do with the abundance or the lack of. For the guys at Dojo has been wanting me to do a project with them for probably a little over 3 years, and I've been basically kicking the can down the road because I didn't have the time or the capacity to do it. I just didn't have the production space. But this year I carved out enough to make it possible. But it's at the sacrifice of something else, sadly. It's also going to be based around the Brulee blend, and that actually is a prensado. I made a special version of Brulee and a prensado with additional aging, and that's going to be the Wagashi. So I think it's I like the Wagashi a lot. I think it'll do well. It smells well. Whether it does well is another story, but it's well. If you like Brulee, you're going to be pretty pleased with Wagashi.
Awesome. Well, Uncle Steve, man, I appreciate you for coming on the show tonight. I usually keep it at an hour, but with somebody like you, we have to go over a little bit because there's so much to talk about always. And, there's a lot of stuff. I'll definitely have you on again at some point in the near future. But everybody that's tuned in tonight, I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if this is your first time here. Share this show out. I think this is the most unique interview that with Steve Saka. I'm just saying that just because I'm biased, but it's all good.
Nothing wrong with being biased, man. We all are.
But I try not to ask the same boring old questions. With you, you've done so many interviews that we had to start at a certain point and all that. So,
I want to say one thing in my defense. I noticed one of the comments scroll by Gracie. I use the term guys in a very 2022 way. It is non-gender specific.
Most definitely. But yeah, so shouts out to Gracie. She tunes in quite a bit, and I see her on different virtual herfs, and she's good people. So but yeah, so appreciate you guys for tuning in tonight. And Uncle Steve, I'll let you know when we're not live anymore.